What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we are indeed back on the Crew 2 today for the Uptown Wilderness Summit. For this one, we're going to have the Jeep Wrangler Pioneer Edition. In gold, we have the Ford Mustang GT, which, if you guys own these cars, keep in mind you also get the money back for them. That will go for any of the vehicles that come out in the summits, including the ones in Platinum if you already own them. Just in case newer players might be wondering about that. On top of that, though, we're also going to get an Epic Nitro as a silver reward, which, by the way, that one actually looks kind of dope, not gonna lie. And then for the next summit, we're going to get the Chillin' Rabbids tire, which I do have to say for a tire, that one looks pretty dang funny. Besides that, we're also going to get a score breaker boosted for the monster truck category, which you might look at that and go, well, I mean, it's going to be a score breaker. Funny thing is, monster trucks are actually really good for slalom, so I would recommend it. Looking at the summit, we're also going to have two monster truck events, a few street events, hypercar, and a jet sprint. So I'm actually looking forward to this one in the aspect that it's going to be incredibly mixed up. I love summits like that. The next one, though, we're going to have the Flying Germans bringing us the lovely Cayman GT4 Wasp Edition. Love this car, guys. I feel like players have to get it. It not only looks great, it's going to be pretty dang good overall for the performance, even though the only slight flaw to that car is going to be its overall top speed, but the handling on that thing is so dang good. Besides that, we're then going to have the October to November 6th summit, which is of course going to be based on Halloween. That is going to give us the pumpkin rooftop, which is going to be interesting. You'll then get yourself the Combi Ghost Hunter edition. That's going to be a very interesting looking vehicle. Then finally, a Street Racing Fame Magnet Legendary set, which I do believe silver is probably going to be 2 to 3 parts, I believe, which is still going to be fairly helpful. But besides that, though, moving into the Uptown Wilderness Summit, I have to admit I did have a great time in this one. I also have to say, guys, for some reason, I just have such a great time doing the Crew 2 summits over Motorfest. I really don't know why, but then again, the summit design in this game is probably just better, to be 100% honest. Besides that, though, we're going to have a low altitude here, which I would say these are probably fairly straightforward. For this one, though, I did end up using the Zivko Edge 540 V3, which is still easily one of my favorite air race planes in this game, like not even kidding. Even to this day, I love this plane. I would probably say it's one of the best overall planes in the Crew 2 without a doubt in my mind. But when starting off this skill, though, all you will simply have to do is basically hit the objective, get as close as you possibly can to the ground, head over to the water, and go as fast as you can. This one is fairly simple. Besides that, though, moving over to the slalom here, which is going to be on the ground, and it is also going to be at the Miami airport. So the good thing about this one, though, is you can easily run something like a hypercar, a rally raid, a street car. Basically, any of the ground vehicles will do with a score breaker set on this one. For me, I did end up using a touring car, aka a Ducati Panigale R, which is technically a touring bike, but I still managed to get 155,000 points. I would say, once again, guys, with a score breaker, you can basically run any ground vehicle of your class and still get over 150k fairly easily. And then for the next skill, though, is going to be a buoy smashing. So for this one, I did actually end up running the Vector V40R. I do know a lot of players are going to end up using the 1414 Demon, which is great. But for some odd reason, I love the handling of the V40R. Like, this boat is so dang good. Also, this buoy smashing is also going to be fairly simple. I think the biggest thing is basically going around in the circle, getting the main objective, which is going to be the green ones. Watch out for the red ones, because if you hit those, you will end up losing your entire combo if you actually hit the red buoys at all. Like, if you barely scrape one, your combo is gone. So definitely watch out for those, aim for the green ones, and you should be good to go in this skill. But moving over to the first event here in the summit is going to be a no restriction rallycross event, specifically down to Yellowstone. I actually love these races, the atmosphere in them. It really is going to be such a great time. If you are wondering what is going to be the #1 vehicle everybody is running, that is easily going to be the RX-7 Evo Group B. That thing is so dang good, man. Funny thing is, though, knowing me, I was like, you know what, bro, we can't use that car. Let's go run something like the Escalade in first unit. Guys, I know this truck might not be the greatest for this event. Like, if you are searching for the highest times possible, sure, it isn't the greatest thing, but you can still easily get over 125k running the Cadillac. This thing is great. It's not only going to be pretty dang fast, it handles so dang well and basically eats the corners up. I would recommend trying it. For this event though, I would actually recommend being a tad more careful on cutting certain corners because you actually might end up losing speed because they are rallycross vehicles and not rally raid. So probably staying on the road might be a tad faster in certain areas. And then for the next event, you'll have to use the Corvette Grand Sport, which I know you're probably looking at this car going, man, this thing is probably going to be terrible. Luckily, it is going to be downtown LA South, so it is going to be a fairly quick event. And you know what? I have to admit, the Grand Sport is actually not a bad car, like it's fairly decent. Is it going to be the fastest street race vehicle? Well, probably not in that aspect, but I would say it's not a terrible car either. Keep in mind on this event though, they did end up adding another checkpoint, which I'm sure they probably did that a very long time ago, but again, I'm getting back into these summits now, so probably haven't noticed how there's a new checkpoint there. But overall on this event though, the biggest thing is do not be afraid to cut certain corners a bit more. Jumping over the sidewalks and stuff will help you get around them even quicker, which of course in the end is going to make you even faster in the event. But moving over to the next one's going to be a Rally Raid race. For this one, I did end up deciding to run one of my favorite Rally Raid vehicles in the entire game. That is going to be the Raptor Evo 1 Enforcer unit. Keep in mind this is going to be Rosewell, so there's going to be a ton of different pathways on it. So you guys will definitely want to really look and make sure you're taking the fastest path, because I have noticed even though some of them might look the fastest, they may not necessarily take you on the fastest path to the next objective, which I would say some of these races are kind of hilarious like that. But again, that's probably going to make it pretty fun in an aspect of, yo, probably should go left here, not right, I should probably go that way. Then you're actually going to get even faster in it. If you are struggling, try out the Raptor Evo 1. I love this truck, guys. I highly recommend it. And I will also have the pro settings at the end of this video for it. But now moving over to the next event though is going to be another street race. For this you actually get to use the new Wrangler Pioneer Edition, and I admit this truck is actually not terrible. Now keep in mind in this event though, the truck's not going to be maxed out, it has no pro settings on it, and I would say even with this thing being basically a base level, it's actually not terrible. Like, yeah, it's not quick, but I would say the handling is actually fairly decent. Now I did get around 3 minutes and 51 seconds. I actually would say if I went in automatic I might be a tad quicker, because I was noticing shifting this truck in manual could be a bit wonky in certain corners, but it will still end up being fairly usable if you are running manual. For me personally, I always run manual even if some of the cars are on the odd side of it. I still feel like they're still going to be pretty dang good. Now the one thing I would recommend on this event though is do be careful, because going off-road in this, barely touching like the off-road areas and not the road, it will slow you down so dang much in this event. And then for the next event is going to be a Rally Raid race with the lovely Quicksand concept. I'm going to say this right now, this is probably not the funnest truck to use in the game. Like, the reason why I say it is it's not going to be a terrible vehicle with like speed, even though it's a tad slower top speed wise. This thing legit cannot hit bumps at all, man, like not even kidding. It basically goes all over the place. You're probably going to notice that, well, turning and hitting bumps, the truck's probably going to spin out or turn kind of odd and stuff. So I would definitely recommend being a tad careful with it. I would actually say when you are jumping, try not to turn or try not to go into the bumps when turning. That might help this thing just a bit with getting a higher time and actually trying to get a tad better with the quicksand, because you know what? This truck is definitely pretty odd to use. And then for the final event here in the summit, you probably are looking at this right, and yes, it's going to be a hypercar in a rallycross event. This is probably one of my favorite things about the Crew 2 summits. A lot of the events are probably not going to make that much sense, but on top of that, we're going to have so many different events in the game to where you can actually mix them around and really make them interesting, which in return is going to make this summit so dang entertaining. For this though, you will have to use the Chevrolet Corvette C701 convertible. Now you're probably going to use this and go, wait a minute dude, this is a hypercar in a rallycross event, it's going to be terrible. Funny thing is, it's actually not as bad as I thought. Like, it doesn't handle that great in the dirt. Who would have thought? It's a hypercar. But it's also not going to be all that terrible, and this event does have cement and stuff, so you're going to be able to get more speed and actually pick up speed a bit. You will end up being a lot faster than you actually thought running something like a hypercar in a rallycross event. But overall though, guys, do let me know if you have any questions at all in the comments below. Overall, I always enjoy jumping onto these summits and doing them, and I would say the Pioneer Edition is actually fairly unique if you don't have it, so I would recommend going after this car because at least you can add it to your collection, and if you did want to drive it later on, at least it's going to be there.